Hey YouTube, welcome to the console room where we talk about anything and everything. And this is just a quick intro on this week's basically manga reviews on this jump review number 3. And we're going to be talking about the new series Bill Kings, followed by Chainsaw Man, a reveal in My Hero, and also Kaiju number 8 with the continuation of that. Just want to say thank you, for giving us, likes and subscribes and just honestly just watching us lovers listening really. We're gonna be pumping out some content too, so give that a watch. Just subscribe, share, do what you can, and just want to say thank you. And that's about it from Mr. Ice Shard and from my co-host also Emperor Cusco. And you guys take it easy and enjoy the episode.
Well, I think we should start with the elephant in the room, which for me was definitely a unknown to be released series. Build King.
Oh, Bill King. I thought it was Bill Kings, but yeah, it's Bill King.
I did as well, but I'm looking at it right now and no, it's Build King. Yeah. So, I don't know about you. I shouldn't say I don't know about you. I mean, you and I have gone back and forth quite a bit. We're both, I think, pretty big fans of Toriko.
Oh, I'm a huge fan. I love it. It's one of my favorites. I just love the over-the-topness.
That's what I was going to say, to be honest, is, if I had to go right now and give you a top 5 in no particular order of my personal, favorite manga series, it would definitely be Toriko, Shaman King, Jujutsu, Air Gear, and...
You would like Air Gear.
Probably, My Hero or something like that. Yeah, dude, I love Air Gear. Don't even get me started about Air Gear. Anyways, so yeah, to see Build King, which is... not obviously a true sequel, but it's very much a spiritual successor. I mean, that's pretty obvious from, you see the 2-page color cover spread. What is the new MC's name?
Tonkachi, yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it.
He looks like Komatsu from Toriko. There's no question about that.
And his brother, Renga?
Yeah,
he reminds me of a skinnier Coco.
Yeah, right? With maybe just a hint of Toriko in there, because I feel like
I can see
the silvery hair.
Yeah, I can.
And the nose or something like that.
With
so
the eyes. Yeah.
I go a little bit more to that. So yeah, this was. I guess you and I don't do a whole lot of background research in terms of what's coming out this week or things like that. Is something on a break due to these reasons. So to kind of have this dropped randomly on a Sunday was huge. I didn't know what it was, but when I saw the art and who it was by, I was interested, instantly interested. I was like, this is going to be so cool. I can already feel it because he's just over the top at all points.
Oh, yeah. And
would you agree?
Oh, of course. I mean, his previous work from Toriko is just imagine if Dragon Ball Z had number scaling. You know what I mean? So, yeah, as soon as I saw this, I was like, a new series. And the funny thing is, like I said before, and I mentioned it when off screen, he had a one-shot called Bill Kings, and I was actually skimming through it. I was trying to find it on the Shonen Jump app, but I couldn't, so I had to go to another site, and I found it. I was just skimming through it, and the difference was there's one character, or I guess one main character, and then he has a talking house essentially, or a sentient house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, from that one shot, compared to this one, and I prefer the differences that I prefer this one, the new version that he made. There's 2 protagonists. Clearly, one's the brains, and the other one's the bronze. It would seem, where from the other one is it was just one protagonist, and it was kind of it reminded me of I don't know if you ever seen the movie Mortal Shells or the trailer for that, or London.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah, it's basically Countries on Wheels.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Or there was some similarities to that. So, but Bill Kings, I mean, right off the bat, I just enjoyed the crazy over the topness. I mean, I'm excited where it's gonna go. I'm really excited where it's gonna go.
Well, it's I guess for anybody who may not have read Toriko. Just to kind of give you, I guess, a little bit of insight into what you could be expecting from Build King is, so Toriko is kind of like Shokugeki no Soma, but
Fruit Wars.
Throw in a whole crap ton more action, actual action, not intense cooking scenes, and then throw in Hunter x Hunter on top of it for, crazy creatures, crazy lore. People are super powerful for obscene reasons and
A
stuff like
large
that.
amount of reasons, yeah.
And, that's kind of, I guess, a very, very poor idea of kind of giving you, or at least a picture of what Toriko is like. And this is already right from the get-go, just right in that vein. Even from, the opening kind of
Hammer
pages.
Island. Yeah.
Yeah, Hammer Island, right outside the area where humans dwell, which, to be honest, is very reminiscent of how Toriko starts, because you're in the gourmet world, right, as it's referred to, or the gore and
the
stuff
human
like that.
Yeah.
And then right out the bat, you see these crazy creatures. There's like some sort of lizard, saber-toothed tiger thing,
unicorn,
with some sort of pterodactyl raptor on grasshopper legs in the background there. Like, I don't even know what that is.
While volcanoes going off. One thing I do want to mention, he has one of the most, like, I don't know what's his mindset when he makes something. It's just kind of like he puts two things. He's very good at putting two things together, and like this is a thing now.
It's two seemingly unrelated,
or just
these animals have no business being together, but it works.
But not even that. It's even his like words, like in his like any setting from Toriko and even Bill King. Like, I'll give an example. Like, I wrote it down here in my notes. Like, even the food. Oh, here, have some like screw tea, or like chocolate nails, and it's,
I call it that too. Yeah, and that's where I was getting the Toriko vibes from as well. I'm like, oh, that sounds like something that would be in freaking Toriko for sure.
So like when he has like a word, it's like over the top. Like a carpenter in this world is like probably the most important thing in the world, and like the power set, I can't imagine what's gonna be. Like,
I can't either.
Yeah.
Toriko's was so weird. The one thing so I guess going into a little bit more on Toriko and what I can see kind of transferring over here as well is a big part of that story was the relationship between
Komatsu
the chef and
the gourmet hunter
themselves. Yep. So that was like a huge part of the series, right? Is finding a chef, building a relationship with them, and together you go to create like
the best
your
menu
super course, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then in this one, clearly Renga and Tomokachi have like something very similar, right? Where Renga's the architect, right, or the builder, the carpenter. Sorry, that's the actual title. Not that.
But they're both carpenters, but one's better than the other.
I was gonna say, can we even call Tomokachi that? Because I mean, that house, dude. That's there's a Three Little Piggies reference, basically, right? The wolf walks up and just blows the house down without a care in the world. So that was kind of funny. But sorry, backpedaling a little bit. There's clearly, I guess, going to be that kind of relationship maybe again, where the carpenter has somebody that they absolutely need, right? Like, how does the carpenter get those materials? Is there another role maybe that we don't know about yet that goes out?
Backing off that, I guarantee you, there's like probably multiple roles. Like, I can't even think of like building a house. You know what I mean? Like, okay,
you need like a mason, a carpenter,
a welder. You're gonna have you're gonna have welders and stuff like that. You're gonna have like a planner. I guarantee you, a planner is probably like a big thing too. So
because Coco, I think it was, isn't exactly like a gourmet hunter, right? He's kind of like an offshoot or something, and then
he's
Toriko.
I believe he's a hunter.
I must be thinking. I am thinking of the wrong character then. Who's the guy with the giant nose who looks like a tengu in Toriko?
Oh no, he's a chef.
Oh, was he a chef? Okay, then I'm just mixing it up a little bit. My bad.
But there were like offshoots of like other stuff. I know exactly what you mean. Where like it's all the same world and all the same vein, but they have like different jobs and like, oh, I'm this and I'm this type of hunter, or I am this type of like chef and all that stuff like that. So
exactly. So I'm thinking there's probably going to be some, similar, I guess, specializations, if you want to call it, kind of thing.
I mean, you could just see it right off the back. Rengen's house, like, it's a giant like either steel or gold helmet. You can't tell with black and white. But like, yeah, it's insane. And then once he gets in the house, it's like doesn't even budge when the ogres kind of like come in. But I'm really I mean, overall, I'm just really excited for this whole series because after like reading it, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be like over the top. You know, I mean, I think our favorite pages. You know, I'm speaking for you, but I don't know if it is when you know we see their master. His name is Chauvel, which is kind of like ridiculous in
I thought it was
itself.
just shovel. Do you think it's actually? Do you think they?
Chauvel or some type of accent, or
Oh,
just straight
maybe
up
I have
shovel.
like. I thought it was straight up shovel, to be honest.
I mean,
I read it as shovel. It could be. That would probably make more sense if
I
it
mean,
was something
honestly,
like that, like a play on words.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's just that because again, his words in like his naming convention is very simple, and you know it's over the top where like he puts two words together and like this is a thing now, like you know, master carpenter, you know, that's like sure, and like I'm pretty sure he's probably like their master's like probably the top 10 strongest carpenters in the world.
Well, you know, like slight spoiler alert here for I guess, or not quite spoiler territory, but a little bit. It reminded me kind of the relationship that I'm kind of seeing here. Kind of reminded me a little bit of what the heck is the guy's name in Toriko, like Adam or whatever.
No.
Like
His name was like Acidine or something. I can't remember his name, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like the original gourmet hunter or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who like kind of started everything. That's the vibe I kind of get from. We'll go with Shovel for now, I guess. And then I remember he kind of took on a couple of apprentices as well. So it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of story. There's a lot of like literary techniques and literary ideas that are kind of being carried over here from the original work. And to be honest, I don't personally see a problem with that.
No.
Because sometimes you force a sequel and it kind of doesn't work and people end up more disappointed. But what if you take, the same things that people love about the series and just kind of transfer them elsewhere with, again, a similar backdrop, because instead of crazy foods and crazy dishes,
houses.
Here we've got super crazy houses. Like,
yeah.
In the thumbnail that we'll have, there's a turtle walking with a crazy city on its back.
That's what I want to talk about. I think this is my favorite page of like the whole chapter where like you see like giant mountain range condos. Who thinks of stuff like that? He put words together and I'm like, what? Like condos by mountains and they're massive that they're touching the cloud. It's like crazy.
And my thing is who would even want to live there though? That's kind of.
I mean, I probably would. I mean, look at that like Destiny 2 upside down pyramid thing. I guess I assume that's the underworld prison. Like.
Yeah, that's what I would assume. Yeah.
So yeah, it's very like out there, and I'm really excited to see the world, like how big is obviously the world is massive, and it's gonna be like so imaginative because it's just. It seems like a kid's, imagination kind of like drawn good. Obviously.
Oh, Running Wild? Yeah, I could agree with that for sure. The funny thing is that you kind of mentioned kids. I feel so far this story is already a little bit more, maybe oriented at a younger kid audience.
I believe so.
Because Toriko, I wouldn't call it mature, but the violence and kind of, I guess, the killing, especially of the animals and stuff like that, it's a little darker, right? That's not exactly
but like
reader children-esque to an extent.
But I'll have to disagree. I think it was still towards kids. I mean, the anime is they cater it very much towards kids because but I know what you mean. In the manga, it was like a lot more I guess blood when they like defeat each. I mean, Toriko's arm got cut off and everything. But when it comes to Japanese storytelling, it's different from like here in the Americans where like you won't watch Ben 10 and his hand won't get cut off, but that's probably normal for a 10-year-old to read that. Kids read Naruto, and Naruto has its like moments of I mean even early on.
Now and again it does for sure.
I mean even earlier on with the like Zabuza arc. So, but I do agree. Yes, this is just off the back with like the ogres. It very feels I don't know. Dragon Ball-esque, you know what I mean?
Silly kid goes up. Well, dude, speaking of just Dragon Ball-esque, we'll kind of, I guess, jump around here. Is that hammer?
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was Goku's power pole.
I guarantee you that.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. That
and just the way he was like hitting it against the rocks to like traverse across the island.
yeah.
I thought that was so cool, dude. Like honestly,
And,
that was wild to me.
and it's funny that like reread, we only meet these characters for I want to see it for a few, a few pages, and like, oh wow, he could do that, eh? Like he could just swing it, like
Yeah.
like just from the jump. I'm like, okay, this kid is like above average. I mean, living on an island called Hammer Island, that's just you kind of have to take your like disbelief a little bit up there, you know.
I agree. Well, I mean, look at the residents of the island too, though.
They're
right?
all monsters. They're all like creatures.
He's taken on like 3 kappas as
Which was
his
hilarious.
students, right?
Yeah.
And they're like chilling, right? All I could think of was like Koopa Troopa Bros or something. You know, you got the Huey, Dewey, and Louie of the Koopas over here, just like chilling. And the one guy's like, "Oh, I have 8 girlfriends." The other guy's like, "I have 6 girlfriends." And Tonkaichi's sitting there like, "What? What is going on here?" Right? And so, just stuff like that. It's being very humorous right off the bat and kind of playing with pop culture references and stuff like that, and I loved it, man. Even the penguins were pretty damn funny.
Oh yeah, they're like little. I think they're called toad penguins, something like that. Or yeah, they were pretty adorable. Like again, his creature designs are just like sometimes unique and just very like simple and enjoyable. I mean, even the king ogre himself. I think it was the house eater. Yeah, the guy has like 2 mouths.
Right. Well, and it's funny because that's where I was gonna go too.
With like 10 pack, like 10, like his or like more abs. I don't know. He's like a 20 pack.
I know. It's like dude. It's even more than that. It's like a bajillion pack. Because I was actually just scrolling through to like the more actiony parts, anyways. Yeah, for sure. And I think, to be honest, kind of those creatures were even more so what kind of nailed home. This is in the vein of Toriko. This is kind of like a spiritual successor of Toriko because the monsters were the most aggressive things on screen in Toriko at all times, and they were jacked up like this. They were made to be look intimidating, kind of make no sense, have like extra appendages and stuff like that, and that's clearly the get-go right here again, right? I was very surprised though when it spoke after he kicked the crap out of it, and it was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then. That was pretty funny to me as well because I wasn't expecting it to actually like be able to communicate with him.
No, same. So it kind of makes me. I mean, makes sense too because like the other creatures talk, so why wouldn't that one?
That's true too. Actually, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that either.
Also, I just realized it looks like he's on top of the mountain. I mean, on top of like, the Hammer Island. Like that's where they are. So
Oh, you think they're on top? Oh, that could make sense. Like at the beginning, and
yeah,
okay,
or like just the way he's like, literally like hammering himself towards up. So when he
dude,
was twirling.
I feel like Hammer Island is go back to the first page where you actually see it. I feel that actually must have been a hammer for some giant thing that lived on this planet at some point and broke off.
Okay.
Like, just look at it. It's like it snapped or something right at the end there. Like,
what's funny? Okay, so I know we're jumping around a lot. Because I had a whole theory of like, well, I can already see how like this is gonna be pretty massive in its like scale already. I mean, there's a volcano on top of like the island. How much you want to bet the Earth itself is like? It's a house. The Earth is the planet.
It's a house, like in a house. Yeah.
No, or like some like there was like a type of like super ultra being where like he built planets. Which are
I could see that 110%,
because like the theme is like the theme of the manga is like people build home, like how Toriko was about food and like food brings people together. Now this one's like homes, keep serenity and safe and this and that.
Safe, yeah.
And like which is like, let's say the ultra god being, it was like he created planets so people could be safe on the planet. It's just something like that over the top. So
well, even just like safe from the darkness of space kind of thing.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like simple as that, right?
Yeah. So it's gonna be very I'm like I said, I'm just super hyped to see where it goes. But you're right, it is look like the hilt came off a little bit. So I guarantee you that Hammer would probably build a piece of that planet or whatever. However this, because to be honest, however this Earth looks, for all we know, this Earth could be square. We have no idea what it looks like. Because I always remember in Toriko, I know we're going back and forth, but it's just so evident. Because I mean, even his art style is just similar. I mean, I know you mentioned before, you feel like it was more cleaner. I personally felt it was basically the same. Um,
Well, I did go back and read a couple of chapters of Toriko,
mhm.
just to, kind of get a feel for it. And my after kind of rereading a couple of it, maybe it's just a little bit more refined. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe not more refined than. Well, yeah, I would have to say it's maybe a little further refined than what Toriko was at its apex, at its like conclusion, right? Because
Mm.
every artist starts off with, like look at My Hero for
I mean,
example. What
they
My Hero
evolve.
looks like now is not exactly. You refine your style, you refine the characters. It gets easier. I guess more after kind of reviewing everything a little bit further is it already feels like it was the apex of Toriko from like a quality standpoint, and it's like you can tell this is a mangaka who's like coming back to the game kind of thing, not somebody who's starting off fresh. There's a very very high professional quality here that just speaks to someone who has years and years of artistry experience in this particular type of genre and field.
Yeah, because Toriko wasn't his first story too. He made another story beforehand, but it wasn't published here in America. So
Oh, really? Okay, see, there you go. See,
yeah,
I'm getting filled in on stuff too. There you go.
yeah.
Um,
And that
I
one,
don't know. Sorry.
and that story was just ridiculous too. It was like about like this. Imagine a man that looks like, I don't know. I don't want to say like a guy that looks like Toriko, but a grown looking man, but he's 12 years old, and he's like the strongest 12-year-old there is. So his,
Oh Lord.
yeah. So yeah,
Okay, true.
but like
Okay.
going back to the Bill Kings, like I'm curious, I'm excited to see where like what other houses we're gonna see, what other abilities. There probably will be a evil syndicate of some kind, the House Destroyers.
Trying to destroy the Bill
Ah,
King so that the world can't live in peace. Of course, there always
yeah.
is.
Um, the art itself looks great. Oh, I do like the back and forth with what's his name? Togachi. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Tonkachi. Oh yeah.
The
Well,
Togachi, like they're brotherly. Like one's like the sturdy one. One's probably like the little. Again, he's probably smarter, but he also has his own weapon, which I noticed even in the cover
right
page.
at the end. Well, that was
That
something
in
I
the end,
was
and
going to bring
also
up as well.
and you see it in the beginning too in the color page or the
Yeah, and it's like a saw, right?
Yep.
Or like an axe, I guess,
Oh,
kind of
I
thing.
guess like a saw or
Which,
something. Yeah.
yeah, which is interesting because he calls it. Hold on, when he actually like rips out the hammer before he like just obliterates the house eater. So it's called the Vigor Hammer, and so I guess similar again. We're kind of jumping back and forth, but there's just so many like it's an homage basically to like Toriko, where chefs had certain tools, gourmet hunters had like certain tools.
And
He's got a
abilities. Yeah.
construction tool,
Mm-hmm.
powered by my vitality, the vigor hammer. So is that like the vigor saw or something like that? I don't think it'll actually be
Yeah.
called that, but that'll be very interesting to learn. And it's kind of like when you're starting off in an isolated setting like this, there's so much revolving around it still that you just don't have a grasp for yet. So it's just so cool because you're already asking like so many questions, like, oh, where did this tool come from? Oh, why were both of these kids like abandoned on this island? Oh, why did their master come to this sorry,
Island
not
in
planet,
particular.
island? Why did their master come to this island, kind of thing? There's so many of those unanswered questions. Like one thing that I'm going to be looking forward to seeing develop over the course of this series is the furthering of the relationship between Tonkachi and Renga, and more on, is there going to be something to like split them apart because they are different, and because we don't know the reasons that both of them ended up on that island, right? Because they're not biological brothers; they're adoptive.
Yeah.
He even says that, right? He's just like, "Oh, I'll be your brother, and I'll
I
take
mean,
care of you," kind of thing.
again, I mean, just from like I could already see the main character. He has like a nail birthmark. It looks like.
I did see that, so I'm thinking he
That's
comes from
basic.
probably some sort of crazy builders, right?
Yeah, it's probably significant for sure. And yeah, I mean, they could probably get typical either shonen or just storytelling. Like maybe they might get split up, maybe they might not. Who knows? This is it's gonna be very action over the top heavy manga where like they're gonna I mean, I can already see it. Like someone's gonna have like a nail gun, and then it could probably like pierce through the sky or something like that. You know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
or it's capable of like he can shoot it through the planet and it'll come out the other side and like it'll kill somebody or a creature with it or something. I feel
Yeah.
you.
And we're gonna see like other jobs, like we're gonna see like companies that probably like hire build carpenters to like build cities and stuff.
I could definitely see. Well, I think that's definitely part of the case, right? Because that's what Shovel's talking about, right? He's getting hired to go, I guess, maybe
Make a build king.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that I guess kind of confuses me because, they're build kings, right? Like it's plural, but we don't know what built any of these structures. So,
No.
do current day carpenters add on to the build kings? Like, are they the only ones worthy of making edits and things of that nature? Like, what's the dynamic there between that relationship, right? Because Shovel says, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go work on this. You guys wouldn't have a chance of even getting there.
Yeah. So it makes you think the harsh environments they're about to like traverse just by like that, or like there's.
Well, it's kind of funny, right? Because they're already living like on their own on an island. Some pretty harsh environments.
Yeah.
And again, sorry, more Toriko connections, but I'm reminded of when the first time Toriko came back from like experiencing cold. He was asked by like the president of the Gorman Society if like, oh, could you see your breath? And he was like, yeah, like why? And he's like, oh, okay, like you're nowhere close to being as strong as you need to be. And already that kind of setup is being here where, Shovel's like, yeah, you guys don't stand a chance. You're at least 2 or 3 years out from being able to come even see what a build king is. So I like how they're kind of setting the stage already.
Oh yeah, just for like the power scaling. I mean, their island itself, like their master's like, oh, you guys aren't even ready, and their island that they're living on is just pretty tough in itself. Like you have crazy creatures, a volcano that seems to be always going off. So yeah.
What more is there out there?
I mean, obviously a lot more, and I'm excited. I mean, I'm probably repeating myself throughout this whole review. Yeah, what is there to see? But I mean, just to run it down, what is more to see? Where the characters are gonna go? Are they gonna be master carpenters? I mean, that's probably the goal, right? They probably each have a dream where like they want to build peace or something like that, or they want to build.
Well, that's definitely Tonkachi's like kind of dream, right? Is he wants to be able to build peace for people. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it is very kid oriented, which is I think it's fine and it's still enjoyable regardless of like who the audience is for. And I think you need that right now when it comes to like shonen manga, where there's like a lot of gag mangas and not very action heavy, with a mix of like comedy, but there's not really a lot of action heavy and pseudo manga compared to like the typical like One Piece, My Hero, and other stuff. So it's nice to see something different, and I hope the series actually like continues because
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say too. Is people got to stick with this one. I think I don't want to see another rehash of Samurai 8 or Hachimaru, whatever you want to call it. Naruto's author's second work. I don't want to see a rehash of like one of these industry greats coming back and not getting enough time to build up the world, and then the series getting canned. I want to see some love and support for a guy that has already established himself, and he's coming back with the spiritual sequel. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think now is probably the perfect time. People are at home more than ever. They want something familiar. They want something kind of comforting. And this is almost like, when you go back to watch a movie or something, but it's kind of changed a little bit. And you're like, I didn't remember these types of things almost. It's almost of that nature where you get to like reminisce and there's some nostalgia and some comfort in going back to it. So, I hope people jump on. I hope people enjoy it. And, we'll hopefully get to see if the universe here is as crazy as was in Toriko, which actually, sorry, my final note that I didn't get to bring up while we were going around is, to be honest, man, I could frankly see this as being another planet in like Toriko's universe.
That's what I wanted to ask you before. Yeah, you actually just brought it up. Do you think this takes place in another planet in Toriko's universe, or is it like another dimension? Because it's funny because like Regna, when he said like, "Hey, can you cook me something?" And then Regna was like, "Why can't you just cook for yourself?" And he's like, "Oh man, that's like another dimension to me." I'm like,
dimension.
Yeah, I was like, was that like a little reference? Like, I mean, I would believe it too. I'm like, all right, fine. This thing is about houses, and that universe is about food. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very possible. Well,
and like,
spoiler alert,
and
I'll
also
give you like 3 seconds, and I'll give people like 3 or 5
the way,
seconds to click this part out.
yeah, the way Toriko ended, and like,
Exactly.
yeah,
It's very open ended, and there, there's arguably no reason these could not be in the same universe based off of how Toriko ended. So, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe we'll get maybe it'll be more like a fairy tale following Rave Master kind of thing, where they're not in the same universes, but we'll keep getting like, character homages and like things of that nature.
yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll kind of go down
And
to.
like again, spoilers. Either skip it. I guess about a minute or so. Toriko, like 3, 2, 1. Toriko and them go to space to find more food. Who's to say, he goes in a wormhole and ends up here. Yeah.
There you go, right? Ends up in a wormhole in the spacecraft. There you go.
Yeah. I would definitely like to see
Very,
that.
very possible.
Or just like a fun little bonus chapter that they both meet each other until the characters are more established.
Oh, that'd be a great crossover. Yeah, just randomly bring it together like that. I would love that. That'd be fantastic. Let's start a petition. I'm just joking, but it'd be great to see it.
But yeah, but I think that's about it when we talk about Bill King. It's such a weird title because I want to say Bill King's.
It should be plural. I feel it should be plural.
Bill King is very like, yeah.
It's almost too cut and dry. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but yeah. If you want to move on to the next one.
Yeah, with that in mind, well, what are you thinking? Do you want to switch over to Chainsaw? Do you want to go My Hero? We're not going to do Jujutsu right now because we don't have a full real chapter yet. So I don't know. Where do you want to go? What are you thinking? Actually, you know what? Since we're technically a week behind, let's go chapter 17 Kaiju.
Okay, we can do the Kaiju.
It just kind of makes sense to me.
And we're on chapter 17.
Yeah, man, hard to believe. This series is pushing into its 4th month now. Actually, it's only every 3 weeks, so I guess we're pushing almost 6.
Yeah.
Or 5. Sorry, Jesus, can't count. Still can't count. So yeah, man, the fight with this humanoid kaiju
this mushroom
is
flathead.
escalating, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of nice to see like the support suit they have on actually like kind of. I mean, he still takes damage, but you can see it. It hasn't the bullets that he received, or I guess the damage he received, hasn't gone fully through. Because it seemed like the last chapter, you're like, oh man, he's like done. But I mean, there's only so much damage the suit seems to take, and it very
absorb,
yeah, and it actually reminds me of the Gans's suit a little bit. Probably not.
You know what's funny? I've only seen a little bit, but you're right. I would agree with that completely. They are very reminiscent, very sleek but very powerful kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and it's probably something we haven't talked about. But their suit design, aside from like it being very similar properties, probably not as strong as the Gans suits because those are pretty like when you get it up there, it's pretty powerful. They have like a Skeletor kind of like thing on their back. And I'm like wondering, like, I wonder who made these, because this world is still new to us as readers. So definitely want to see more into it. But like, the Flathead Kaiju, man, he's really like just relentless.
Yeah, well, I mean, Reno's on the ground, right? Mm-hmm. And he just keeps like trying to shoot him, dude. I'm also wondering if they're trying to capture more of these defense like task force soldiers. Because on page 3, he's like, it's surprisingly difficult killing off a human's motor functions without actually killing them, that is. So I'm wondering if, maybe they're trying to collect some of these soldiers to figure out, like, how they can further counter them, right? Because,
probably,
know your enemy and stuff like that.
That's why I said in last week, he's probably a scout, man.
Yeah, well, we won't get into semantics over scout and recon and infiltrator again, but yeah, for sure. I think that's probably his role. Either that or, as weird as he is, maybe he's like a scientist and he creates additional types of kaiju. Yeah. So he sends them out into field. He's like a field researcher. He tests them out and then tries to critique it further to make it better and more powerful, right?
Yeah, it could be that too. But as you see, Reno getting like shot up again, and this guy really, I like him, man. He knows he's not the best, and he still wants to like protect his like basically crewmate or like a teammate, I should say. And
Oh, Haru? Yeah,
yeah,
I like Haru as well. Character so far. I just like that he gelled with Reno, and that the reason he came back is like the rivalry.
yeah.
I liked that kind of from last chapter, right? He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna come save you, man." Um, I think also the kind of what's interesting is, you know what? Let's stick with Reno a little bit, and then maybe we'll just kind of come back to the kaiju after. Or sorry, not Reno. Reno. We'll stick with Haru for a little bit.
Yeah.
This chapter is very focused on him and his mentality, right?
I mean, he is
you know,
in the
he's
first.
trying to shoot him and keep him alive. And there's clearly like he's trying to kind of surpass himself as a human, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make captain someday for sure." Like, you know, you're out of your mind if you think I'm letting it end here. So he's clearly motivated, and I like that. He's not the type of guy to run away.
Well, he's admitting that Reno is gonna make captain someday. Like he acknowledges Reno's like better than him. So especially in like a do or die situation, like he's pushing on, which I think is kind of like very evident for like his character. Even like I mean, obviously you know character design is always like different. You know, you don't expect someone like that in another manga to be like that heartfelt, I guess, or for I can't think of another word.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Heartfelt because this character design is usually very punky, right?
Yeah.
So you don't usually see like as much emotion kind of thing. I would agree. So I think it's good to see it there. It's kind of funny that you're saying that because the heartfelt aspect at least. Because when you go to like the next page over, I guess we're looking at 8 and 9. He's like there on his knees, right? And he's like, "Please God, it can be a demon or even the devil himself for all I care. Just please save Reno. Please save my friend." Yeah. So it's like right there, really embodying kind of the heartfelt nature that you're talking about, which is really cool.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that question? To be honest with you, because like it's interesting to me that the way it's phrased, because it goes from God to demon and then the devil himself, and then you know what happens on the next page. You know, Kafka's standing right behind him. The only one dying here is you, dirtbag. And
yeah, like that's such a sick. That is such a sick page. Just like the
so good. Like all the
one eye.
And, like,
yeah, like
off. Oh man.
Just like you could just see like the anger, like the oh man, and he's like hesitant. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, right. Like the flathead kaiju. Literally, all I can think of is the meme, and that was the moment Jimmy knew he fucked up. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I see when I see that panel. But sorry, yeah. Like, how do you? I don't know. How did you feel about? I guess the phrasing of that. Like, do you think there's supposed to be some foreshadowing there, maybe to?
I didn't see that as foreshadowing. I saw it more like just the desperate, like just asking for anybody, like. Just anybody, and like they live in like I don't want to say a harsh environment world. It's just that they live in a world where like kaiju exists, and he has a job to like extinguish. You know, like monsters are real. So, I don't know if that was more like oh maybe we'll see something scarier. You know what I mean? But I guess it's more like when he said like even the devil himself, you know, or the demon, like you know, you see Kafka coming up is like. Because he is essentially like we still don't know, you know, why he has his power, or why he's able to like, you know, become a kaiju-esque, you know, person. So yeah, you know, who's to say?
The way that I guess I kind of looked at it was for Haru to kind of be phrasing it that way and break it down that way. I think he might come into the fold. Well, I guess he's obviously maybe got to come to the fold of knowing like Kafka's identity because. You know, by saying that, you're kind of admitting, like, you don't care what happens. Like, I'll agree with anything at this point. Just, like, save my friend. Yeah. So, to see, like, him come in and make that kind of statement, I feel, you know, if he gets further ingrained into the story and the dynamic going on here between Kafka and Reno, that, you know, that was a good way to kind of set it up to be like, you know, I'm gonna follow with you kind of thing. Because if Haru wants to support Reno's supporting Kafka, so you know you're forming this nice little group to kind of back up the kaiju number 8, if you will, and keep a secret, help him out, those sorts of things. Which, as weird as it sounds, are some of the most important parts in a series where secret identity is such an important thing.
Yeah.
Which actually, I'm going to throw that out to you. That's kind of something I've never really thought of before. For the most part, shonen heroes are very open in terms of their identity and who they are. And I think it's very interesting that this is at least for me, as a reader, one of the few in the last couple of years that have been really, really big mainstays, where the character is actually very much in the background and like trying to hide who he is, and there's almost a comic book esque desire to keep the secret identity safe from the rest of the world, kind of thing.
Well, it's very much comic book esque for sure, and very much like similar to Kamen Rider or Ultraman, where like some of their identities are kept in a secret. You know, so and obviously kaiju being a very like namesake in Japan, we're like, oh, okay, kaijus are like a culture thing over there. So it just is, I don't want to say it's flipped on its head because I'm pretty sure there's other stories similar to it, but like kaiju number 8, Kefla turned into a kaiju is kind of similar how like I forgot what's his name, but basically and anyone from like Ultraman where like they become like this like powerful alien thing, so or even like another series SSS Gridman where like the main character becomes this like alien thing or robot kind of. It's kind of confusing.
Well, yeah, because he like fuses with like the bike or whatever, right? Like,
he fuses. It's so like weird and confusing. It's very strange. So no, I know what you mean. It's very like a comic book where like he needs to keep his identity. I don't know how long that's gonna stay though. If I'm being honest, when it comes to like this manga, I feel like eventually they will have to like work together.
It's got to come out of the bag. Agreed, absolutely. Yeah. Well,
if I'm being honest, I feel like it'll be sooner rather than later. And I don't know if it'll be right directly after this arc. I mean, what do you think? You think he'll get revealed in this after this whole event that's happening right now?
To be honest, that's an excellent question.
By like the vice captain.
I understand where you're coming from. Because sometimes I have to keep my identity secret from people thing, it can get really irritating. You know what I mean? Because maybe not irritating is the right term, but it becomes cumbersome and it becomes repetitive because series can get very locked into this sequential thing of, okay, it's another of he's struggling to keep his identity a secret. How do we work it into the arc, into the story, and not just like have it blow out of the water? So I honestly don't actually really have any ideas yet. I don't think right now, maybe if I had to just shoot something out there, I think it's still a little too early. Excuse me. We don't have enough information on, what that kaiju that turned him into this was. We don't have enough background information on, like, so many of the other things. So, we'll have to see. It's obviously going to be the cat out of the bag sometime, but I don't know when.
It'll definitely be a big, I'm hoping it'll be a big moment similar to, like, no, I don't want to say similar, but kind of like when in Attack on Titan, when Eren was like, okay, well, obviously he's the Titan and stuff like that, and how they have to deal with it. Where do we execute him or do we like use him? You know what I mean? So I think it'll be kind of like somewhat similar to that, where like do we or as soon as they see him, I mean, however this fight's gonna turn out, as soon as the whole squad sees Kefla as the kaiju, like are they gonna? I mean, they're probably gonna straight up shoot him. And he has to like escape and try to turn back. But going back to this panel though, it's so great. It's so great. Like this guy's terrified, and then the next page, him getting punched, and it's like,
oh, the head goes flying off. Oh, yeah. So crazy.
Which is kind of crazy. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. Finish your thought, because I'm going to transition to something else. Go for it.
Oh no, I was just like, even continuing the chapter with the mushroom head, you're kind of like. Yeah, I know he's not dead because we do see his other, his body reform. So
his body's like forming back, yeah.
But we are aware that Kaiju's hearts are like placed differently, so I'm wondering where his are. And also, remember in the last chapter, there's like other stuff moving around where Kefla was before. So I'm like, was that also part of him?
Is he like reproducing? Is he leaving? Are these like all maybe parts of his core?
Yeah.
So you have to kill like all of them, kind of.
I mean, he does remind me of like a mushroom, and like mushrooms are kind of like. Don't they like kind of grow?
Fungus like spread and they grow off of things. Yeah, exactly.
But go ahead.
Sorry. The question I guess that I'm gonna throw to you, and I guess kind of this recurring theme that I'm seeing a little bit so far already is Reno keeps getting into these situations where he's powerless, and particularly on pages 16 and 17 for basically like the 2-page spread where like Reno's basically passed out and he's like, "Oh, I forced him to transform again." What do you like? What do you think the repercussions of that are going to be? Like, how do you think that's going to integrate into the story? For example, just to give you something hypothetical to work with, would you think that Reno would end up also getting a kaiju power? And if so, would that make them rivals? Would they become a team? Like, how would that go, kind of thing?
I don't think he. I mean, the story could go so many ways because we just don't have a lot of information from what. Just right now, we're just dealing with this enemy, and we need to like get past this enemy. But I'm pretty sure after this arc, I would think his character will want to like. I need to grow stronger. I need to do this. There will be like a training-esque arc. We'll probably see. If anything, I don't think he'll get if he won't get a kaiju form or kaiju abilities. He'll probably get like there's probably other suits that we don't know about. There's probably like prototype suit upgrades.
And maybe one like specifically, he'll be like the only one to be able to use it for some odd reason.
Yeah, because he's one of the he could like really use the suit as of right now to like one of its highest potential, right? So like I'm pretty sure there's another suit that there's probably like prototype maybe could be on par to the Kaiju number 8, like its power, the way he punches and everything. So
yeah.
Or speed or more towards speed, who's to say. But like
I can see that.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see him, cuz like the way he uses different rounds against the Kaiju was pretty like quick, and like the way he was dodging some of the bullets and stuff like that was just like quick thinking. So that would be pretty cool to honestly see. And like I want to see the other like squad mates kind of develop too, maybe during the training after this whole thing. But as I'll definitely want to see that. But because he is gonna feel regret, like, man, I mean, he said himself, I forced him to change again. So he's tired of feeling helpless. And like and obviously he's not helpless or useless as like a fighter, but it's just that the scaling is just so high for humans, at least recently. Whereas like, man, these kaijus are getting kind of more serious now. Where
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that like just kaijus becoming more serious now, because that's kind of where my head was at. From a slightly different perspective though, where this is actually the first kaiju we've seen that hasn't gotten blown out of the water, right? Like, it's a humanoid. It's most likely a numbered kaiju. So I'm kind of pumped for next week, because we're actually going to see what you could arguably classify as the first real fight of the series.
Yeah.
Because so far, everybody's been One Punch Man out of there,
Yeah.
This is the only guy to survive the hit so far. So personally, that's what I'm really excited for the first like real fight, where he doesn't just get to hit and walk away. There's actually going to be some, I have to use my powers a little differently. I have to develop them a little bit more than just simply a punch. And I'm looking forward to that development in the coming chapters.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure he has I guarantee you he has abilities he doesn't know about. Like a Kefla, I guarantee you the suit or the thing he has like, aside from like the physical enhancements, he probably has, I don't know, ice breath, or could do electrical charges, because
Yeah, I'm thinking something electric related. Yeah, just because of the artistry so far. But yeah, I can see that too.
Or like an EMP blast or something like that. Because like this guy who I still say he's like a scout or recon or whatever. He has like fungi ability. Like he could like shoot like air. We assume it's air bullets, right? Or like pressurized air. Like yeah.
And he also dealt with their radio frequency. But like we didn't actually see him do anything. So what's the story there? I get you.
Yeah. So I guarantee you, like, he will unlock more abilities, which is actually very exciting, because I'm always a fan when like his character I guess abilities needs to develop, I guess, during battle. You can't really do that during training, I guess, in his sake, because what's he gonna
do? Where exactly, right?
Yeah,
He'll reveal himself.
And I'm always a fan when shonen characters are very much like, okay, I need to get better, and they do it during a battle, where like it won't be, at least for me, it won't be shocking. Like, oh yeah, like of course he'll have another power that we won't know about, because we don't know much about anything right now. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, next week, look forward to the big first real fight. I don't think there's a whole lot to touch on, really. I think we kind of hit the big points of this week.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you don't have any other thoughts, how the fight's going to turn out?
Well, actually, that's a good question. Do you think, are we going to see the first loss here? Because to be honest, if there was a time to give him a loss, it might be right now. As weird as that sounds, because this guy doesn't seem overly interested in
fighting.
So if he ended up, if he ends up losing, that just forces different story. That would also allow for the identity to be kept secret a little bit if he got knocked out.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna lose, but I think he'll be pushed to a corner where his abilities will have to evolve out of instinctual kaiju abilities thing. I think he'll be back to a corner because we still don't know much about the mushroom him. At least for now, all we know he could probably, do that super fast air fungi thing, which I think that's what it is, air pressurized, just going crazy strong, and he could regenerate because we don't know where his core is at. But I think he'll be back to a corner. That's the most I can see right now, and then we'll see some crazy new ability, and then obviously afterwards we'll see the squad mates come out and we got two kaiju we gotta kill. So yeah, and then I guess the mushroom head will probably escape. So that's how I think that's how it's gonna go. I mean, that's going super fast, but if I was a storyteller like that, but it's still enjoyable, that's the crazy part. I still like it. But it was great. Chapter was great. Short chapter was great. Coming to the rescue. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's it wasn't it was just please save my friend. Okay, I'm here to save your friend in the form of the devil. And watch me kick this mushroom's ass. That's basically what we're setting up for next week.
Yeah.
I guess just a couple of final thoughts. As always, phenomenal art. I've been enjoying the tone. I've kind of been beating to death over the last few reviews. There's just something about the blend of comedy here with the darkness of the kaijus and the darkness of I guess some of the art and character design again on the kaiju side. It all, I guess, on paper, it arguably shouldn't work, but when you see the product as a cohesive whole like we are, it's really enjoyable, and I really love it.
Yeah, I enjoy it too, and I can't wait for the next week. I really do hope it gets animated, and I hope it keps going, because
oh man, I'd love it. Yeah. So anybody watching our videos, keep this series alive. We want to see it animated.
Yes.
I had two of my dreams come true this year. They were admittedly a little disappointing. Tower of God, I've been reading that for
I think Tower of God was a great anime.
A decade, and that becoming an anime was, oh man, that was fantastic. I know there's not as positive of a response as I would have liked. Same with God of High School, but I was reading those 10 years ago kind of thing, and I thought to myself, there's no way these are ever going to get animated because they're in the Korean market. It happened, and it just goes to show that if there's enough hype and there's enough love, anything can kind of make it to the next stage. So come on, guys, show that love to Kaiju number 8. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and on to the next thing, My Hero.
Alrighty. Yeah, we can do My Hero.
Cool. My Hero.
Or do we want to end with My Hero? My Hero's kind of heavy, so I'm wondering if we should maybe do Chainsaw and then go My Hero.
I'm cool with Chainsaw Man. Yeah, we can do that.
Because Chainsaw Man, it's an eventful chapter, but not a lot happens at the same time. It's very, to be honest, I'm very surprised by how quick the turnaround was on this. And I'm so...
Oh, yeah, so we're going...
We were talking last week. So we're going to go Chainsaw.
So Chainsaw Man, Chapter 93, You and Crappy Movies. So go ahead.
You and Crappy Movies. That's a very good name for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were talking last week where Chainsaw Man, a very, 180 story. Mm-hmm. You have no idea how it's going to go.
Yeah. But when they do the turn, is they would do that.
They would, and that's exactly how I felt this chapter, to be honest with you. What I was, I guess, kind of more shocked by was this was very okay, this is how Denji feels. This is what Denji's thinking. Denji's acting on his feelings. Okay, here's what's going to happen next chapter. It was also quick, I was super surprised, but I guess let's go back to the beginning. What did you think? Was this the response you were expecting? For me, I don't know if it was, but the second it turned into being about girls and being kind of about sex, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that makes a fuck ton more sense now.
Honestly, yeah, I was as soon as the chapter started and I was reading through it, and he was he was surprised when everyone was praising him through the television news and stuff like that, and he started talking like, wow, the girls like me, and he started crying, and I'm like, well, that's actually the first thing he wanted. Reading the first chapter, remember he wanted a girlfriend, he wanted to eat good, and he just basic necessities and
Excuse me, sorry.
that's all good. And when he was just that's all he wants, and Denji would do that. He's not he's not a piece of garbage and like that, which is kind of funny because he comes from the garbage a lot, it seems. But I believe it when he just on the ground, that's all he wants. He wants 10 girlfriends, he wants a bunch of sex, which is kind of funny, which very much reminds me he reminds me of still a dog, which I think that's the whole point, where dogs don't think, they just want to eat, do it, and that's it. Yeah,
that's a very good point. The almost the counter or the push that I'll give you to kind of maybe change your thoughts a little bit is he almost wants more luxury now.
Yeah.
Right? Because before it was, oh, I just want jam, and now he's like, that's not what I really want. What I really want is to eat steak for breakfast every morning. And then, you go to the next page after that, and he's like, I know I shouldn't. I know it's terrible, but it's but when it comes down to it, I want 5. No, I want 10 girlfriends, so he's no longer satisfied by the bare minimum that he wanted previously.
Now his lust has elevated, because again, he had nothing. He had his life, right? But he was working for someone else, working for something else, and I remember the chapter before, he doesn't know what he wants, and he wants to live for himself, and I think that's just him being true to, he says it himself, I know I'm terrible, that's an awful way to think about it, but you're being true to yourself, rather than, a lot of people would hide from the fact, I don't want 10 girlfriends, I'm happy with mine, or I don't want this one, I'm okay with, having eggs, and, he's, I don't want to say the embodiment, but, he's speaking to his true feelings, and I think that's okay for the character to do, because not even, what's he been dealing with, but, just, from, chapter 1, what he had from nothing to, now. Yeah, it's more lustful and more, I want more, but it's, yeah, you get it, right? Yeah, you would want that.
Well, as we were talking about,
he never went to school. You know what I mean? So he doesn't, and he calls himself dumb all the time. It's not the first time he's done that. So, but go ahead.
Well, as we were talking about last week in the review and in the Doors video, there's very human qualities to the series, and humans are never really satisfied, right? We always want more. We always want to go farther. We want this. We want that. And, it's kind of weird because when it's portrayed in a media, there's usually this defense mechanism that rises in humans to be like, oh, well, he's a bad human because he's partaking in too much of his desires and his vices and things of that nature. But, I think everybody deep down wants that. And I think, seeing, in a weird way, it's almost, I know you're kind of going from the standpoint of Denji's still a dog, he's horny, he sleeps, whatever. I'm almost, with this particular chapter though, I'm almost seeing more of a transition into him being a human rather than a dog.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because he's no longer satisfied in a weird way with the table scraps. He wants to own all of these things kind of for himself, and we can kind of, I guess, transition to we won't jump right to the end, but he starts to question his relationship with Makima, right? He's why like was I kind of doing what I was doing for her? Why did I just kind of roll over and play dead before? I do want to be Chainsaw Man. I'm not gonna let somebody else decide that for me.
Yeah.
And that's the first time really that we've kind of seen that, and I think that's fantastic, to be honest. The dog's kind of trying to become a human.
And it's funny that I do agree, like when you watch other mediums, like oh man, this man had too much human desire and stuff like that. But you look at you don't see a main character kind of like not flexing, more like
have
those flaws, but like extreme desires, and you just kind of not that you want him to succeed, but it's like I have never read a manga, or at least recently in a couple of years that I can remember, where a character like his desires are just lustful or just like aside from saving the world, he doesn't that's not his goal. You know what I mean?
No, it's kind of funny actually.
It's very flawed, but it's like very believable, and it's not like is it hard to say like you want him to succeed? Not that I want him to have 10 girlfriends, but like I want him to be happy, if you know what I mean. Like I want him to just do what he wants to do, and it's just so hard in what he's dealing with, because again he never had nothing. And yeah, like I wish I had better words to explain it, but I really enjoy Denji because like you don't have that many characters in I can't remember, maybe in different mediums where like their desire is just so out there. He's saying it like, yo, I want this and I want this, and like and I know I'm wrong for it, but like and so he's questioning himself too, which is I think it's okay. It's like, man, is it okay for me to like want this? You know what I mean? Like I'm just terrible, like or I'm the worst.
Well,
and
that just speaks to the human.
Yeah, and him just still liking Magima, like after all the whatever abilities she has, like terrible thing. Well, she has the control devil, but like it's just like man, that sucks. It's like, yeah, I guess she's cute, and like her design and stuff like that. It's just like it's rough, man. This guy has it rough.
It is, and what you're kind of talking about though goes, it's like this for him was at least, it was believed at the beginning that this was like the first kind of positive relationship to come into his life, right? Other than Puchita, but like we don't really count that. So it's kind of very interesting because there's this very like full circle kind of nature, and I guess we'll kind of progress more into the Makima part of the story now, right? Which is he's come full circle. He bumped into her by accident, became the dog. This was like the first person that I guess you could say treated him with more humanity than he had been treated beforehand. Not to the highest level, but
because the first time he met, he was like, "Oh, you're gonna be my pet or whatever." I'm gonna, you do whatever I say.
Which was still better than you're gonna be like a debt slave, right?
Yep.
So better alternative. And now it's kind of coming full circle, and it's, oh well, I'm no longer satisfied with that, but I do have these feelings because that was the first thing I'd ever experienced. I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
And he's confronting not just her when he's sitting on the cross. Yeah. He's confronting himself.
Before we hit that page, I just want to mention too, before I forget also, he's still like a young adult. So
yeah, I mean, then he's like what, probably like
16, 17,
16,
the mass,
18 kind of thing.
Yeah. Like to him to have that desire makes sense. Like he's and again, like I hammering on the point where like he had nothing before. Like he doesn't know, he never had a girlfriend, he never had this and that. And at that age of like, I don't want to say adolescence, but like, he never really went to school like that. It makes sense for him to have those desires, and he's to be confused about those desires. Like, and he knows his faults and everything, but yeah, he's still a young man. He wants to, excuse my language, he wants to fuck. You know what I mean? He's probably horny all the time. So like,
no, you're
yeah,
right. I guess shit.
Yeah. So and going to that page on that spread page on 12 and 13, I love it, man. Like all those crosses, the graveyard of if I remember correctly, those are like the people that work for that department and stuff like that. If I remember correctly, if not, I think it's just a whole bunch of like a crazy cemetery. This imagery is just awesome. Like the final few pages.
It's very striking, isn't it? There's something to me that's very interesting because you kind of. This is gonna sound kind of weird, but like the image before it, you've got the power lines in the city,
Yep.
and they're somewhat cross shaped, and then they're kind of lined up in a weird way, and then you instantly jump to crosses, and
Ah,
then
that's
it's
see,
like
that's a
row
good
after
sight, man.
row,
Yeah, and it's just
right?
and then
It's kind of like this symbolism of just there's just no end to it, right? There's
yep.
no end to like the power lines to keep everything going. There's no end to like death. There's no end to this cycle kind of thing. So that was just kind of something interesting for me as well. But I that's to be honest, I'm still doing my read through to get fully caught up and get
Yeah.
the proper grasp of the series.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, out of everything that I read so far, this actually might be like my favorite panel that I've seen. Period. Just because there's such this striking contrast between like darkness and light.
With with the clear sky and then him on top of the cross is just
Yeah, and then they're all wearing like black, and they're like the darkest part of the panel.
oh, you're
which
talking
is
about
kinda interesting to me.
the next page, right? When you just see all those like I guess goons that she's controlling.
Well, that too. But even when they're walking down the path,
Yeah.
The darkest part of the panel is them.
Yeah.
And there's this very like it's kind of like an encroaching darkness, right?
Well,
like the darkness is coming into the light, kind of thing,
Yeah.
to a weird extent,
And
right? Because they're getting closer.
Of course, and it very much reminds me, even towards we'll get to it. It reminds me of a standoff about to start, of a western.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Oh yeah, like dusty prairies by a graveyard.
the good
cliche expression when you
the-
dig a grave, dig two, one for
Yeah.
you and one for your person. Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like he's just very, which is kind of funny because I think the chapter title speaks for itself and what he acts is Makima, and but going on to the next page on page what is it 14 with all those with all those goon heads, and it's just you don't see their bodies, you just see their head, and like they're there, right? But it's like their black clothing just kind of covers everything, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. It's like they're one thing. They're not even people, right? They're just
Which
like,
I think
they're just a blob.
which I think this is the point because Makima does have the control devil. She could like control anybody essentially. So they're not even like individuals, aside from like
No,
some
they're
people
puppets,
have,
right?
yeah. But
What do you? Sorry.
no, go ahead. No, ask me.
I was gonna say, what do you make of the "why have you turned back into Denji" thing? Like, she seems overly confused by that, and I'm also too confused by
So
that.
I think okay. So when Denji turned to Chainsaw Man, the full on like demon looking thing, and he was facing against a whole bunch of devils, that was Chainsaw Man. And remember, when he was like on the pseudo date, he was like remembering what Denji wanted. You know what I mean? Like what he like. Oh, I wanted a girlfriend, so he went. Oh no, he said I wanted to like eat steak in a restaurant, and so he actually went like the Chainsaw Man creature beast went to the restaurant because like that's right, Denji wanted to do that, and so he went to the restaurant that's right, he wanted a girlfriend, so he went out on a like pseudo like hostage date or whatever. So he's not fully. I think Chainsaw Man is when he like goes into that full on demon form thing. But obviously the public doesn't know the difference. I think you just see a guy with a chainsaw head in hand.
Chainsaw
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
But like, at least whenever we see him in this form, we know it's Denji.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's kind of where the confusion comes in. Is she seems like overly surprised to see him back as Denji? Like, did she not think it was possible for him to come back? I guess.
Yeah, she probably thought that.
For all intents and purposes, was Denji dead until Power brought him back?
I think Denji was very much like he just gave up on life. Because remember, Makima killed Power. Makima like made him, I guess, so depressed and like wanted to give up on life. Where as soon as he turned into Chainsaw Man, like he could just.
He became it himself. There was no Denji anymore.
Exactly, and that's why you see fragments of like when Chainsaw Man, or the monster, or whatever, demon, he was having fragment memories of Denji's like desires. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
yeah.
So that's why she's surprised that I guess Denji still has like life essentially, like still kind of pushing on, or because again he got like crazy depressed where he's like, I don't want to do anything. Let me be your dog. Like, which was like, oh, that was such a rough chapter. Like just reading it, I'm like, that gave me depression for a few hours. But it's kind of funny that what she act, because remember she's trying to create, I guess, the perfect. It's so weird what she's like her goal. Um, well, I guess Denji's a fan of bad movies. Um, and I guess I mean, would you want to live in that world where like there's no bad movies exist? I guess you wouldn't know,
Well,
right?
that's true too. Especially if like with Chainsaw Man, where you just erase things from existence, right?
Mhm.
I think the bigger analogy though, Denji is the crappy movie, right? I think that's the idea. Is you know, yeah, the chapter is called "You and Crappy Movies," but it's almost like you are the crappy movie.
Yeah, I know
Does
what
that
you
make
mean.
sense?
And like she's trying to get rid of it. Like, but yeah, it's kind of funny where this Arthur man, I think he's just a really big fan of movies. It would have seemed even from like his previous.
Yeah, sorry. Well, yeah, no, I don't disagree with that, but the meant about movie, you know, crappy movies aren't good, but they're guilty pleasures.
Oh,
And
for sure.
they're not bad. They're not actually bad things, and I think that's kind of the idea. Is Denji is comparing himself to a crappy movie where
Yeah.
he's like, I'm not a star-studded cast with an amazing performance by everybody in it.
Yeah.
I'm flawed. I'm kind of dirty, right? Well, not dirty, but like he's teenage pervy in quotations
Yeah,
and
of
stuff
course.
like that, right? He's very human. He's very flawed, and by asking that question is like, would you have bad movies in your universe, kind of thing? And she's like, no, I wouldn't. He is a bad movie, which means his existence wouldn't be allowed in her universe.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the turning point for him, for I guess what you could consider like a full-on acceptance of himself.
No,
He's like,
I agree.
okay, well,
Yeah.
like I'm done with you then, because
Yeah.
I am a bad movie and I'm going to continue to be a bad movie.
Because that's the way I want to live. Because he's just like,
I'm not going.
yeah, and that's the way he wants to live, and that's okay. But I was mentioning about the author.
That's going to be super, super interesting to kind of see that going forward.
Yeah, and I was mentioning about the author himself. He uses movies as like
Hold on, bro. My headset just died again. What is going on?
yeah. What I was saying.
Sorry. So I guess that's
What I was saying, like this author, like he must be a big fan of movies because he's always mentioning his like work. Like again, in his previous work of like Fire Punch. Spoilers. There's a character that wants to make movies, and she just likes every type of movie, crappy ones, shitty ones. Where like she makes the main character who's like always on fire. It's such a strange story to be a main character in this post-apocalyptic winter fucking wasteland.
Oh, is that the scene that you showed in our video last week? Where
Like
be your main character?
I will be your main character. Yeah,
Oh, that's so weird. That's like
that's where
you're
the like the
you're meta in your own world. So weird. Okay,
and
yeah,
it's
I
such a
gotcha.
it's such a strange like. I mean, even in that context is like. I mean, just watching that panel, I'm like, why would he say that? Like, is it a fourth wall breaking, or is it? Yeah, it's such a weird like thing to read. Well, even like one of the main villains, if you want to call her that, it was so weird. One of the villains of Fire Punch, where like she wants to spoilers, and I recommend people reading it. She wants to recreate the world, and she'll redo it as many times because the world in that world it got destroyed. I guess it stopped because it snowed everywhere, but it stopped the production of Star Wars Episode 7. And she says she'll recreate the world again until she gets that movie, like constantly. So, yeah, that's kind of like an insane plot just to do that. But yeah, it's funny going back to movies. Like, I think he homages a lot from me. I mean, just with this chapter, very. I don't want not Samurai 7, Magnificent 7, but very like we mentioned before, country-esque. Where like you see the crosses, and I mean, look at those crows on top of the crosses where like they just fly away because it's about to go down because it's high noon.
Yeah, it was funny that you mentioned that because that's actually the panels that I was just looking at, and I was
Yeah.
thinking kind of that too. Again, those very Western vibes where even the animals, like, a very big literary theme is using animals to kind of reflect the environment as well and stuff like that. It's like I think pathetic fallacy is using the environment, but I forget what like use it, and by environment I mean like the actual like nature and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it applies to animals. There might be a different term for that. But that's a very big, like, inconsistent literary technique, is this idea of, like, using the environment and nature to reflect the emotions. And that's kind of what you're seeing here, right? Where, the animals get this signal where it's like, oh shit, guys, it's time to bounce.
Yeah,
Like
because
something's about to go down, right?
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good yeah. And obviously, like on top of the crosses, we're like, I mean, we obviously know this is happening now. We're like, yeah, this is about to happen. Like, but are those? Do you think those? Let me have questions for you. Do you think those 3 crosses are significant? Where like, is one of them Denji's? Is one of them Makami's? Is one of them another person?
I don't know. That's funny. I was kind of wondering that too. Or man, do you think Denji's gonna die? Because the way that I just looked at it is, if you want to go kind of back, if you want to maybe focus on the idea of 3, right? Who are the 3 people that Denji was the most connected with? Anki and Power, right?
Yeah.
So 3 birds, 3 people, all very connected, and all 3 fly away.
Yeah.
So is Denji gonna die? Because to be honest, 3 wouldn't have felt significant if it weren't for the relationship between the 3 characters. And then, if you backpedal to like our conversation, or again last week's video where we were discussing the front cover, again, that double page spread with the 3 of them, and only 2 of them are leaving, and now all 3 of them are leaving.
Yeah.
Again, are we maybe getting some foreshadowing here, or is it just like, okay, 3 felt like the appropriate number? I don't know, but there's definitely.
Yeah.
I think one of the weirdest things about reading Chainsaw Man is it's so difficult to know what's like subtext.
Or what's just or what it's just like. Did he just put that there to not just because?
Yeah, like, exactly.
Because it feels very much there. Like, I don't think he was trying to be deep, and I think he's kind of like messing with us on purpose. So yeah.
Right, well, and that's the thing, is sometimes it's deep, and sometimes you're getting trolled by the author almost.
Yeah, but it probably it's unintentionally deep also, if you want to say that, So
yeah, well that's true too, right? Because meaning is what you like. Things take on meaning and gain meaning from what you give them or what you pull from them.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just kind of putting it there, and he wants everybody to get a feel for it and kind of go from there. So
for sure. I mean, and even like like I said, going back to the review, I'm gonna ask you a question after this comment that I'm gonna say. Again, very Western vibes. Were like, not including Makami. It's like Samurai 7 or Magnificent 7, where like there's like the 7 devils behind her, like Katana, Bomb. I forgot the other ones. I don't think they're new to me. Well, not new to me, but like we've seen them in the fight, the previous one. But yeah, there's 7 of them. It's again very Western, so I just love the vibe, and like the chainsaw revving up is like the holster of a gun, like shot up, close.
Yeah, he's putting the hammer back, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But question to you, since Denji said he can't beat Makima with just like, slashes and stuff like that, how would you think he's gonna overcome this?
Oh my lord. I couldn't tell you, because here's something to think about as well. If Chainsaw Man erases existence, does Denji have that ability as well, or is that ability strictly reserved for
the Chainsaw Man
itself?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that kind of plays a very large dynamic in how this fight is going to go down and what's going to happen. And I couldn't tell you, man. Like, that's, to be honest, that kind of ties back to what I was saying at the beginning of the chapter when we were coming in, doing the review, where I was like, this felt so kind of fast. It was, okay, here's his reaction. Here's his thought process. Okay, he's acting on his thought process. And
that's very.
I don't know. I was so shocked by us getting to this fight that quickly. I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like, for example, my counter question would be, okay, if he has figured out a way to beat Makima, A, is this the end of the series? And B, if it's not, like, what's beyond this, right? Because there's always big, bad, powerful devils, and they're all kind of losing to Chainsaw Man, obviously.
Yeah.
But this, she kind of takes the cake with the control and everything she's able to manipulate. So,
I mean, yeah. Go ahead, keep going.
Sorry, I was losing. I guess control is the one thing that every human desires in their life. Everybody wants to control what they can, right? Like
Yeah.
people hate being powerless, hate being not in control. So if control is absent from the world, because that's essentially what will happen if Makima dies, right? Because she controls the power demon. So if she controls the control demon. So if she dies and it dies, and the world then loses control, like what does that mean for the world?
I mean,
is
like,
Denji about to
but
create like the ultimate hellscape? Like there's so many.
I mean, there's a lot of, but there's also a lot of themes too. Because like, remember where he says he wants to do stuff to himself. I mean, to himself, he wants to do stuff for himself. Is killing Makima like just basically cutting off the chain? You know what I mean? Where like,
Oh, if we go back to the dog metaphor, like
yeah, but
he's
also,
breaking the leash off kind of thing.
yeah, but yeah, oh, Jesus, man. And this is as we're talking, this is like self discovery as I'm saying it. I'm like, yeah, I'm actually, but also like, if we kill Makima, is now there's more free will for people? Like, is that a good thing for humans to have? You know,
That'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd
like,
be interesting.
and I wouldn't be surprised if that's another undertone that he's trying to explain. Like again, like I just discovered like, oh yeah, if he kills Makima, it's like cutting off a leash because he's like a dog, right? Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. I don't know. So
I don't think so, because he kind of viewed himself as a going into their relationship, and I use relationship in quotations because it's not really a friendship. It's not really it's obviously not a relationship in the sense of dating and all that type of stuff. But she cemented and further honed and further like embedded that idea of you are a dog and you are not worthy kind of thing in him. So I don't think you're overreading it. I think that's a pretty accurate take, especially when you look at it in the greater scheme of it. You know what's actually really weird now that you're saying that? If you look at the last double page spread, the chainsaw sound, like I can't remember what you call that in comic, but you
onomatopoeia?
put in, like it's
No,
like
no,
an
no.
onomatopoeia, right?
Is
It's
it
like
onomatopoeia? I can't remember what's the word, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I think it is. I think it's onomatopoeia because
Or it's called
that's, like,
something,
supposed
but
to
yeah.
be words. Is it on?
No,
It's like the word sounds like it, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you look at like the chainsaw revving in the background behind them, it actually also looks, like a chain.
yeah, that's pretty cool actually.
So,
I'm pretty sure that's like the kanji version of it, but like amplify, right?
yeah, no, and I agree with that. But my point being, like again, like it's playing into that motif of a chain, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He's like further honing in on what you're kind of saying with
yeah.
that kind of symbolism, right? Because like as weird as it sounds, if you take that same image and you separate the sounds and you like have spaces, it doesn't have the same effect. Because I was kind of staring at that the first read through, and I was like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, that's the sound for like the chainsaw revving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why did you do it like that?
Yeah.
And then you're mentioning this kind of idea of killing Makima, breaking the chain and stuff like that. And no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think the question that we would pose for like any viewers, any readers, that I'll pose to yourself, and you don't actually have to answer it. It's just kind of like partially like an ending.
Yeah.
I want to provoke some kind of, I guess, ending thoughts / questions is, what happens when that chain gets severed? What happens when the chain of control gets destroyed?
Especially in
is
this,
there anarchy? Is there chaos? Is there freedom? What happens? And we have no idea because, it's Chainsaw Man.
Yeah,
and every
yeah.
chapter has just as much chance to go from A to Z as it does from Z to A. So
yeah, 0 to 100 so fast. Just a couple of like two thoughts maybe, and then I think we're pretty much done with the review. I think the way, two things, and I don't know how he's gonna defeat Makima. I mean, we know probably the next chapter is gonna be very action heavy, so that's gonna be pretty cool art to look at. I think, as strange as this sounds, like maybe he might kiss her. I don't know, or maybe like I don't know, because it just could go any other way. I mean, for all we know, next chapter they could be like on the floor, doing it. I mean, obviously they'll censor it, but like it could be. I just don't know. I think the series will come to end at like probably close to 100, just because his previous work was also pretty short. I think it stopped around 120 or like 80. I think I can't remember personally, but it was very low hundreds. So that was like another short series, or if I don't want to say short series because 100 chapters is still a lot, but compared to like the long running ones. So
well, I mean, anything compared to One Piece is pretty short. So.
yeah, that's true. That's very much true. So I think we're gonna probably hit to 100. I think that'll be like the end point. And I don't know, just maybe 100 is like a good like stopping point if you want to call it, but I don't know how it's gonna end. I mean, next chapter he could come up to Makima and just like transform back to Denji and like kiss her and like maybe that's all she wanted. I don't know. You know what I mean? So, but on a great chapter. Just these like some of the paneling was like awesome, or at least the two spreads are just like awesome aesthetically wise. Like I'll have that as my background just because it looks so cool. You know what I mean? Anything with a clear sky and like some cool shit in the front. Yeah, but great chapter. I'm excited for the new one. I can't wait till next. Well, actually, a few days. We'll just have to ramp up another video.
We got our work cut out for us this week. We're gonna be pumping out the content. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. No, I agree, man. And I think with that in mind, we'll close the door on that, and we'll finish off with My Hero.
My Hero Academia, number 291. Thanks for going strong. That's pretty.
Can you believe, man, that this series has been in publication for like 7 years almost at this point? It's taking a 2-week break after this, but if it ran through basically all the way to the end of the year, it would essentially be we're 6 weeks out of the year, so you'd be at like 297, 298-ish, and 300 from a 52-week perspective. I know they take breaks. It's crazy. 7 years, man. 7 years of My Hero Academia. 5 seasons coming out soon. I guess season 5, will be coming out pretty soon.
2 movies.
It's crazy, man. This series has come like a very long way, and it's hard to believe that it's going to be celebrating 7 years soon.
I mean, it's definitely a big.
Good for them, though. Like the team behind it now, and it's hard to believe that an ex assistant to Oda is like here and celebrating his own, and will be celebrating his own 7 years very soon.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a big moneymaker. I mean, the story itself is great. You got the show, 2 movies, video games. It's huge, man. It's massive in the West here just because of the whole superhero theme itself. So, yeah, I mean, it's great, man. I'm really liking it. And what do you thought of this chapter? Like, how you want to start it off? Like, I don't even know where to begin.
So, last week I talked about how some of my favorite parts of My Hero have been the delving further into Endeavor's story as a person, as a father, his character development, all that type of stuff. And to be honest, I just love that there's more of it here. The most interesting types of characters are always the ones that are slightly flawed and are trying to kind of
better themselves.
They're unable to break out of that flaw without certain stimuli, and you're kind of watching how they go about it, and that's kind of what we get here. First of all, I think young Toya has like a great character design. First of all, and I think there's something so interesting to me about this like first panel and the way he's standing, where it's kind of like, when you look at like your old photos of yourself as a kid, and you kind of think to yourself, oh, like that's kind of how I used to look, or that's who I used to be, but you can't really associate with that life anymore. That's exactly kind of the feeling that I get here. This is who he was. This is what was in store for him, but there's no connect with that in any way, shape, or form. Even the way it just starts is he died. This is what he was. This is what he was remembered as.
Yeah, the first page. I mean, sorry to cut you off, but like the first page, you see the burning, and then right after you see like someone in ashes, right? Like they put in the.
Yeah, like it's an urn. Yeah. Exactly, right. And it's like, oh, they say it burned at over 2,000 degrees Celsius and stuff like that. So right off the bat, this chapter caught me with that, and that's kind of, I guess, my just general thought. I want more of this because I want to see more on Endeavor, so I've been enjoying it. Damn it! I had a thought and it just kind of escaped me very briefly.
I guess I'll pick it up from there. Seeing Endeavor, kind of, at least for reading his thoughts, talking about the past. I don't want to say he was more happy, but I guess his, firstborn, you don't see an Endeavor, because the first time you see Endeavor, he's very like cold, as silly as that sounds, like cold and like, like hard, hardened.
Yeah, the hero of flame
Yeah.
is, yeah, he's a cool, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like when you actually see him, you kind of see like a slight, like he's like a little bit proud of his son, and stuff like that. I mean, he didn't want
Yeah, well,
he didn't want the child he like perfectly wanted, but he was content. He was like happy. I mean, yeah, like he was like, oh man, like my son has like a greater fire than mine, and obviously because it's blue, right? Blue's like it's the center of the flame, like when you turn on your oven, or yeah. So it's and I can believe like yeah, I mean I don't have kids, right? But like I would imagine like you have your firstborn, you're very much like, this is my child, this is like my future. But he also knows his flaws, where like he put his passion into Toya, or like his like desires, kind of like when a parent like
yeah, he put
his
exactly.
ambitions. There we go. That's the word. We're like, I don't know. It's similar to like me, and like, okay, well, I can't accomplish my dream. I'm gonna push that onto my son, and obviously that probably like went too far. So, and it's kind of funny that I don't know if you saw the on page 3, I guess, where you see his second born, and then you see Toya trying to touch her, and then you see Endeavor kind of like stop him a little bit. I don't know why, and just kind of like
Oh
cute
yeah,
little.
that's interesting. I didn't
That's a
really
little.
catch that. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
probably just a little cute detail, but yeah. Seeing Endeavor. I mean, again, still a flawed like father, and but it's just you see more of him of like, not tender, but like okay, like this is.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah, we just haven't seen that side where like yeah, again, he's still passionate about his like drive and like towards his like what he's putting towards his like son.
Heroics, but yeah. Well, then that's exactly it, right?
And I feel like Toya dying definitely hardened him more and like pushed his other kids further away, because what he was looking for now, like I need to look for this. I can't do, yeah,
Well, that's exactly it, right? And that's kind of a big part of the, this kind of, I guess, chapter is you're seeing how contrasted his relationship with Toya is. Like look at Toya on the just even the second page, right? Like this kid's got a big old grin,
yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, Dad, like, teach me an ultimate move, right?"
That callback, and then we see that towards the end, don't we? Oh shit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
which was also ironic.
Yeah,
but,
we'll talk about that towards the end, but yeah.
But with Totoro, oh my god,
Endeavor.
Shoyo,
Shoyo, yeah.
or yeah, sorry, there's not that same desire to learn from him. He was trying to shun him. He didn't even want to use the fire, right? He hated his dad so much. So it's just very interesting to see how like contrasted basically these two kids are, and how different their relationship with their father was. It's also there's definitely an irony to the fact that Toya's passing, well, in quotations now, obviously, led to such a dramatic difference in the relationship with Shoto, because it's just like it just doesn't make sense.
But
Well, it does make sense, but you know what I'm saying.
And it's going back to that little flashback, I guess, in his mind. We've seen that cliff, or I guess that edge before, when he's like looking onto All Might, and you see like where I think the first time we seen that was with Hawks looking at Endeavor trying to reach number 1, and he had like a rock and like one plank of wood. Where like when he looks at Toya, he like saw the potential for him to just cross the bridge and like on a steady bridge, or like cross the cliff on a steady bridge. You know what I mean? Because we've seen that imagery before. Endeavor on one side, All Might on the other, and he's trying to reach that. So I think that was very like pretty cool, like callback and symbolism and all that stuff. But
no, I agree. That was it was very. It's also kind of interesting how even in I'm kind of torn on that panel, because I get what you're saying, and I totally agree, and I love it just because you're making that callback. The thing that I get kind of torn about when I see that particular panel is, rather than kind of standing up and being proud and like kind of pushing and ushering his son across that bridge, he's kneeling at the other side, and there's still this like disappointment to not cross it himself. And I kind of disliked that a little bit, just from the standpoint of you're if you're gonna force your ambitions and your dreams upon your kid, when you do so, or if they achieve them, you have to do it in like a positive manner. And I think him kind of kneeling and being in that position kind of like taints it a little bit, if you know what I mean. I think in this instance, I'm just really, kind of projecting my own feelings and my own analysis onto it, but that is kind of the idea that I'm having right now.
Yeah, of course.
On that same page, actually, what I kind of want to touch on very briefly is in the very top panel, he says, ow. And then you see Toya, and he's kind of got like a little bit of a burn on his arm.
Yeah.
I know Endeavor in this chapter mentioned that there was very much...
He overheats also.
He overheats, right? So do you think like that's kind of the beginning? Because what's also very interesting is I'm pretty sure one of Dobby's stitches are exactly where that like wrist burn is.
Well, the funny thing is, yes, a lot like his like patchwork burn marks. A lot of it are like they mentioned like, oh, we couldn't like find some of his body like I think they found like his lower jaw, and obviously when we see Dobby, like he doesn't like his lower jaw is like attached, It's,
oh my god, yeah. So you think that's not even his own like bottom half of his face? That's crazy.
Probably not. No, that's why he's like stitched up, and that's why he could probably use his fire powers way more now. He probably doesn't hurt him because it's not his skin, or he probably doesn't have nerves on his skin.
On his skin anymore. That would make a hell of a lot of sense. Yeah.
So like those burn marks, or at least the parts that he has, are like either something else, or maybe it's severely burned where like it's just he doesn't have like it's extreme nerve damage. So yeah, but they mentioned the jaw part, and like, oh, that's interesting because one of his distinct features of Dobby is like the stitch up jaw thing. So yeah, that was good like callback, or not, I want to say callback, but like okay, yeah, like his character design have a reason. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, you're connecting all the dots. Sure. What's really also interesting to me is like this is getting broadcasted nationally at the same time, right? Yeah. This information is Ventura. I gotta ask you to pause for a second. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, you can unpause if you didn't, or just edit that little clip out. Totally lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it was getting broadcast. It was getting broadcast.
Yeah, so this is like information that's becoming privy to everybody at the same time, and I kind of liked how it didn't just focus on Endeavor. Like Endeavor is obviously very much at the heart of this chapter, but if you go to kind of the next pages, like even members of the League of Villains are like, "Whoa, like Dobby never told us that. Like, why didn't he tell us that?"
Well, like Dobby's first introduction was like, "I'm going by Dobby." That's what you're gonna know me by, and that's it. So.
Yeah, don't worry about anything else. Yeah, no, you're very right.
I always remember that. I always remember his first introduction. It's like I go by Dobby these days. I'm like, okay, you're something. So, but go continue. Keep going.
For sure. Mike, I guess like some questions that come to mind for me are, has this been his plan since the beginning? Like, is he just using the League of Villains to get revenge on his dad? Like, does he even care, or did it start off as like? I guess kind of my question in here, I'll just pitch this at you, is I don't understand how Toya's development kind of led to this, because, it's not like it's not like Endeavor, like, truly forced him into this situation and got him killed, right? Like, it happened from I guess kind of what I understand of the chapter. It's not exactly, like, intentional, so... What were the other like extenuating circumstances and factors that created this situation, this scheme, and this scenario? Like, what do you think on the outside that maybe we haven't seen yet kind of created this instance?
Oh, like his true. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I would think so. Like, yeah, he probably wanted like more I don't want to say people to back him up, but I guess doing it on his own would have been more difficult. But I mean, he has the brains for it. I mean, he made the quirk guy to like broadcast a lot of stuff and like edit shit out to make it seem like the heroes are bad guys. So he definitely has like a master plan. I mean, and he doesn't care about a lot of like, he doesn't care about Shigaraki's plan, if I remember correctly, right? I think all he really cares about, I mean, he has similar his ideas do align with like Shigaraki's, where like he wants to dismantle like the heroes, because especially like evident in this like whole chapter where like look at your heroes, like they're not perfect, and it's kind of funny because like going on through the whole chapter, like he's right, because you see a lot of like advertisements of the heroes, very like superficial stuff, like I don't know, you see like a Hawk's drink or something like that later, yeah, Sea Wings, like I don't know what the advertisement for, like kind of similar to like The Boys, you know what I mean, where like heroes.
A-Train's got shoes and stuff like that. Yeah, I got you.
Mean, Washy Wash has like a soap, it seems. The shadow.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah. No, he does. Yeah, in the billboard. So like.
Oh, is it in the panel? I must have missed that detail.
Yeah, it's like lower. So.
To be honest, there was a lot of dialogue in this chapter, so my eyes were definitely
all over the place.
I definitely wasn't as focused on the art this time around. I will admit that for sure.
Yeah. But his goals just kind of align, and he's not, he'll kill. I don't want to say he'll kill anybody, but he's not afraid to do it. So to reach his goal, but yeah, I think the goal was to like just show off, like, yo, look at all this. And again, it just I said before, it probably just aligned with Shigaraki. Now, is he gonna stay with the League of Villains? I would assume so. Yeah.
It's too early to say, right? I don't know. I don't think personally. Because he's kind of like hitting his point of like supreme villainacy, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think he'll probably kind of maybe do his own thing at this point. Maybe not. It's really hard to say. You were kind of making me think about when you were just kind of talking there was, and I'll rephrase it as a question. Do you think that Toya's like, sorry, Endeavor was a hero. Endeavor is your father. Your father's like one of the best heroes, so do you think he thought so highly of him that his failures, like, just shattered him, basically? Do you think that was maybe the motivate? Because, sorry, I'll go a little further. It's not just a hero failing you. It's your father. It's your family.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go totally off the rails, but, psychiatry, they always talk about how important it is to have, like, both parents in your life, yada, yada, yada. So, when a parent's role in your life is doubly so, right? Like, he's a hero and he's your father. How shattering to a psyche can that be? And maybe, after going back and forth, maybe that's the reason? Do you think that's a possibility?
That's a good point. I'm not too... I can't really say.
I'm going a little off. It's hard to say. You can't really answer. We don't really know. Sorry, it was just kind of something that came up. And I was like,
Because if you're going with parents, I mean, yeah, you do see a lot of like two-parent households in this like story. When it comes to like Bakugo or Deku. I guess Deku, we haven't met his dad yet, but I wonder if he'll be significant later down the road. But
I don't know. That's what I was just thinking as we were mentioning that. I'm like, we still haven't seen Deku's dad, so who fucking knows, man?
Yeah.
Sorry, who knows?
Yeah. I'm not too sure, but this chapter is.
We'll have to wait and see, right?
Yeah, for sure. But him just very much trying to convince the public, like, hey, look at this. Well, and I think you were gonna mention with the public when you were mentioning them, and he was broadcasting it, how some people were just kind of going on with their day. You know what I mean? Probably not paying attention.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the thing to an extent too. Is there was a very like interesting conflict between this kind of like being desensitized in a weird way, because when you live in a hero society, right? Like, as weird as it's gonna sound, I'm sure a villain pops up on that Jumbotron in Shibuya, like, probably once a week. Right?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, the hero's got it. And you're probably like very, feel safe and like, yeah, I don't gotta worry about anything.
Yeah, you're like, whatever, right? You're kind of, and it's interesting because in that panel where it is up on that Jumbotron, is only some people are stopping to look. Others are still like pretty content on just going about their business. And then, we see his daughter, we see the other son, and then if you go even a page further, you see the kid that he saved, right?
Yep.
I guess almost mini Deku, if you will, because he's kind of like the fan, Deku right?
Yeah, for sure. He became a meme in that world too, with the T-shirt and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to me to see kind of that conflict and see how kind of far reaching they were trying to make it. I really appreciated that because it goes to show how, ingrained in the life of everybody that like hero society has kind of become. Because even look at the daughter, right? Like I didn't know she was a teacher, but like clearly she is because of the panels that they have.
Yeah.
And like somebody clearly like sliding open the door and like
And,
trying
like,
to get her attention. She's
yeah,
like,
because
oh, what the shit is going on?
yeah, because
You know?
it's and it's kind of crazy because like all this stuff is going on right now, so like people have their own lives. I guess you can't stop human society just because there's a huge incident, right? With like anything. So
No, and you're right. And I think what's also kind of interesting about that is, we haven't been thinking about what society's doing at this time. And I think there was a huge, huge opportunity here, and he nailed it by jumping back to society and be like, you have to remember, like, yeah, that fight's going down in that city and like everything's obliterated, but there are millions of other people in this country who, they don't even know that's going on right now. They have no relationship to that, but they're still equally impacted by it.
Oh, for sure.
Completely different reasons.
I mean,
and I thought that was so cool because it's, there's been a lot of, I guess, kind of build up in terms of the far-reachingness of the hero society and like it needs to collapse and stuff like that. But I didn't really felt we had kind of seen the impact quite as much until we're seeing it kind of here, in all honesty.
Yeah. Did you so reading through this chapter, we're not going to talk about how towards it ends. Did you honestly think, because when he was talking about Hawks, right? I was like, is he getting, like, when he was talking about Hawks and like, oh, he's this and that, I'm like, is he getting his information wrong? Because I'm like, I know Hawks was like still hiding his like true intentions from Endeavor and also from the League of Villains. So, but we as readers know. So I'm like, is he telling the truth or is he lying? Like, I
don't know, because it's funny that you say that, because when I was reading that too, and I was true about Hawks, because I don't remember any of that coming up.
Yeah.
It could have been fabricated, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they do that, right? If you're going undercover, you get a persona. They give you like a backstory.
Yeah.
They most likely establish the crime to corroborate your backstory, all that kind of crap. Right? So it's very difficult to say, and.
But it's kind of funny because like when we first got introduced with Hawks, like he was kind of like sus or whatever. But then afterwards, we see a little bit of his backstory. Like he was an Endeavor like fanboy because he had a little like t-shirt I think, or like plush, and like he has what's his name? Oh my God, the Shadow Kid. Like he trained him for like I guess for like a semester or something. Not a semester, but like yeah. Like and like that's one of them. A main character of the cast. So like. I'm like, I guess he's not bad, so it's just kind of like, oh wait, did he really do all this stuff that he just mentioned? You know what I mean? So for a second,
you're right, and it's kind of interesting also that that's getting publicized to the general masses. I don't even know, man.
Like I honestly I was surprised when like he killed Best Genius. I'm like, what? Did he? I don't think he did. So I'm like. Where he's getting his information from. So I guess they must have been false info that Dobby must have had. Because again, Hawks is like a double agent where like he was supposed to infiltrate. But again, I don't think he couldn't tell the heroes either. You know what I mean? He could only like.
No, yeah, and because he ended up using that book, right, to communicate with them. Cause he was so like ingrained.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I was actually surprised to see the turnaround on this Hawks information so quickly as well, just in general. But, it just ties into what you were saying earlier, where that guy, like, edits the video on the fly and, like, got it all done, But, I don't know why this guy's carrying a camera and a computer around in a fight this big, but, whatever.
But it's funny with Hawks, like, I take Hawks, I forgot what it was, but I forgot who he agreed with, where, like, heroes do need to, like, kind of change. I think he does know where, like, heroes has become too, I guess for lack of a better word, superficial. You know what I mean? Very advertisement. Like I mean he's like I don't want to say a victim of it, but yeah, like you see like he's popular and he's the number 2 hero and stuff like that. Or like I forgot
he's
again.
Not worried about the popularity scale.
No, like he actually just wants to save people, and I forgot who he agreed with. I think it was like the number 2, the number 1. Oh yeah, I think he agreed with Endeavor and stuff like that. So, but when he's like, oh man, is Best Genius really gone? But no, that's not the case. But I'm not gonna lie, man. One of my favorite panels in this chapter was like, as he like saying his big speech, like, anyone witnessing all this would have been half as stupid to lose fate, right? Thanks for growing up strong till now, Endeavor. And then like he does like the ultimate, Endeavor is still in shock, right? Which I'm not surprised, right? Because like,
you know what? It's funny that you say that. That was something I was going to later when I was talking about. Like, we see Endeavor pained, and I mentioned that last chapter as well. It was very interesting, right? Because, his son's standing there like, Father, like, we got to do this. Like, get your head, like, he's basically like, get your head out of your ass.
Yeah.
You can't have a moment like this as the number one hero. And I thought that was actually super, super interesting.
Oh, for sure.
Because one thing that I've kind of always loved is, we've seen All Might and we've seen now Endeavor have these moments where it's like the next generation kind of inspiring them, right? Because remember, like, even in the first episode, All Might, he was kind of just trying to slink away from the slime a little bit, right? Like, he wasn't trying to deal with it. He's like, somebody else will come deal with it. I got to get away. And then Deku runs in and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, man, how can I call myself a hero if, like, this kid does it and I can't even stand up to that?
And the kid doesn't have a
quirk. Kind of put in, like, an equally serious situation, but the emotional impact and repercussions of this one are just so much higher, right? Because it's not any villain. It's your son.
Yeah.
And it's got to be really weird for Shoto because he's sitting there like, wait, this is, like, my dead brother who's now alive, and I'm so confused.
And
he's the youngest, so he doesn't have a clue what's going on.
Yeah,
right?
But he's also like tearing up and like all the emotion he's like feeling. I can't even imagine. So
you can feel it, right? Like the emotion on 12 and 13 that he's showing. Just on the middle of 12, he's just got kind of like a solo frame there. It's basically dead center, and I think that's great. And then it's him and Dabi, and it's kind of like, again, one of the biggest things that we keep talking. Well, sorry, I guess we've been talking about it, but I keep kind of bringing it up. I guess is there's always these things of like consequences in this arc, right? And the past coming back to haunt you and all this type of stuff. And it's kind of really interesting because if you look at the frown versus like Dabi's maniacal smile, either one of them could have been that person. And it's also very interesting because
I agree with that.
Dabi's right eye is only shown, and that's his, and like both of his are injured, but both of Shoto's are shown, and only one of them is injured. And for me, there's almost like he saw the other side, if you know what I mean. He was able to get over his anger at his father. He was able to get over those emotions.
Yeah.
And he's able to see everything with like clear eyes, kind of thing. Right?
But I do agree with, like, he's able to see, like, with both eyes, even with a scarred eye. You know what I mean? Like, he can still see, and I guess that's kind of clarity because he has he had problems with his mom too and stuff like that. So, and he still
Yeah, he thought his mom like hated him and all that type of stuff, right? So. Yeah, no, and it's really interesting to see that, and sorry, that was trying to tie into your emotion, and I think it's all kind of, it hits like a high point in the next page where he's just like, get moving, like, you got to protect them, like, worry about the rest later, that yell is like, there's something about the art in that panel and his face, there's such confliction, and then same even with Endeavor, right? Like, he's literally a deer in the headlights. He doesn't have a clue of what's going on.
Yeah, because he's still in shock that his son is still, like, that cannot be real. And then what makes it even like more like, I guess, deer in the headlights, like you said, this man uses his like ultimate move, and I'm like, oh my god, what a like,
what a punch in the face, right?
Exactly,
like,
what a punch in the gut.
That you didn't show me, and I'm gonna use it against you, kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure it showed him, but like, it's just like, like we know because we've seen that move before, right? The flash fire fizz, for me, like we've seen that, so it's like, oh man, like, against the the high end one against Shigaraki, so it's like it's a significant move, so it's just to see like, oh, he's not lying, you know what I mean, or at least
No. Yeah. No, not. Yeah. You know what? Maybe that's kind of part of the reason for that is if you had any doubts, well, here's the signature move, and I can use it too. And not only can I use it, but my flames are friggin' stronger. So good luck dealing with that, right? But man, I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't have a clue about how this chapter was about to get resolved. Like he was about to rip out that flash fire fist, and I'm like, "Yo, what's going on?" And then you flip to the final pages, and this stuff's coming out of the sky, and I'm like, "What is that?" And then next thing I see, like, apologies for the delay. I'm like, "What's going on here?" And then boom, as of today, Best Venus is back on duty.
And then oh my god, I was so happy to see him. Like he's flying from like a jet, like a Quinjet looking thing with like I assume is like fabric machines because that's like they're because remember he can control.
That's gotta be what it is. Yeah.
Like because you control like fabric and stuff like that. So like he can control the fabric around him. So those are like fabric rollers. I don't know what we call them. But like
they're like spindles or something like that.
And he's like stuff. Yeah. And obviously he could like stop anyone with clothes, right? So. Yeah, and oh my god, what a like goddamn save. So his information was wrong. Kind of makes you think where he got it from.
Maybe that just goes to speak. The heroes have always been a little bit further ahead, right? If they were able to fake that and get him, because to be honest, when that information came up, I don't remember that being brought up in earlier chapters.
No, not that I can remember either, and I don't think it was. But like that's why it was new information. I'm like, oh man, did he killed him? And even reading, I'm like, no, he didn't. Like heck no. Like but it's still like continuing on. Like, oh, okay, good. Like, yeah, that's for sure he didn't. He didn't. Hawks didn't kill Best Jeanist. That'd be such a weird.
Best Jeanist, yeah. And no, I loved it, right? And to be honest, like I'm not gonna sit there and be like Best Jeanist is like the coolest hero, but he's a top 10, so he's obviously powerful. And it was such a good entrance. And to be honest, he's probably one of the top 10 heroes that we've seen the least of. And who hasn't really gotten a big time to shine because he was injured from one of the previous incidents, right? So to see him kind of come in here with such a huge impact, I was like, I love great. Like it was heartwarming because it's really funny because again, talking about consequences, the past is coming back. They're trying to challenge the Hero Society, and then
but the
heroes manage kind of, again, it's
they're
that
still
idea
pushing.
that we were kind of talking about.
They're still pushing through no matter what. Like, and I'm
exactly.
I'm actually hoping like, how, ending this whole chapter and stuff like that. How Dobby's like revealing like about himself and like Endeavor's past. I want the heroes to still like continue doing their job no matter what the public thinks of them. Kind of similar to like vigilantes or something like that, where like I'm pretty sure there'll be a point where like society was like, "Yo, no, we don't want you," but they'll continue to go even if they hate them. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, it's kind of like the Incredibles in a way, right?
Yeah.
Where you cause a lot of damage, but we're far worse off without you than we are with you.
Yeah.
So I agree with that, and I was super happy to see this reveal come out like this.
In for the save, man. Fourth quarter, like.
Right? Literally, fourth quarter, 2-minute warning. You're coming in. You're like, all right, guys, don't worry. I brought a crap ton of fabric, and everybody's staring at you like, "Are you on crack, man? Because I don't know what you're gonna do." And then all of a sudden, that flash fire prominence burn just like it fizzles out like a little. He put them out like a candle, basically. He's like, "No, thanks. We're not gonna see that today." So. To be honest, I got no clue now. Like this, the trajectory of this arc, I couldn't tell you, man.
Like
because I didn't expect.
It's still like high octane. Like, okay, now we got Beth.
It is.
Now we got Best Jeanist. These guys are still trying to escape. Deku and Bakugo are still like injured, so they can't really move much unless Deku's gonna be crazy again. But yeah.
No, I don't think so. Not yet. And you thought the Hero Society was going to get undermined and broken up, and then he comes in and he's saving the day, Best Jeanist. I also wasn't expecting to get as much background on Toya right away as we did today. So to be honest, there was such a crazy amount happening in such a short amount of time, and there's still so much more to come. It's just like, man, the pacing for this arc has been obscene. It's been so good. Everything's just getting integrated really, really well.
Yeah.
And just again. To see My Hero coming up to its 7th year, and to see it's obviously longer due to breaks and stuff like that, but to see it coming in at that range and to have it be at kind of like its peak in terms of reveals and action and character progression and stuff like that. It's like keep trucking along, man, because clearly you know what you're doing as an artist and as a writer, and it's chapters like this that make you understand why My Hero is as popular as it is. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, it was a great chapter. Like, it was just super hype. I mean, especially towards the end, like, oh man, like, the goddamn save. I'm just happy because it's been, not that it's been dreading, but it's like, man, these villains are just like, oh, it's been hard for the heroes. And they have everyone there. Well, like, aside from, like, the injured ones. But, like, it was still a hard fight, regardless of, like, how many heroes they have and how many died and how many got injured, and stuff like that. With, the villains were probably like a quarter compared to like all the villains. The heroes had the villains had like a quarter of like what the heroes are. So, and to still like be on the back pedal of it and like now to like with the save, I'm happy. It's like a relief a little bit. You know what I mean?
I get you. I totally do. It's like you before you fell off the cliff, you got caught.
Yeah. And
you're like, thank God for that.
Yeah. And each chapter has been like just up and like, oh man, like how much
Peak
more?
And Valley and Peak and Valley.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, yeah, it's just been like, not that you have your down moments or nothing like that, but it's like, oh man, like this is just, it's not stopping, so to speak.
No, sorry, I meant like the peaks and the valleys from like the emotional standpoint.
Oh yeah.
You're just on a roller coaster going through all of this stuff, and it's been a wild ride, but it's been a blast.
I feel you. Any last thoughts? Like, you think how the next chapter is gonna go, or like?
No, honestly, man.
That's about it, right?
We also just like plowed through like a 2-hour recording session, so
yeah.
I'm kind of drained of stuff like that.
That's perfectly
Again,
fine. I mean,
keep supporting everything, and that's kind of my big thing.
Yeah, I mean, just like I was always gonna say, like, since we're kind of done, yeah, just subscribe, like, share, do what you can, listen in the background or don't, doesn't really matter. I just want to thank everyone that gave us a listen, and we're still gonna keep doing this.
Yeah. To be honest, we're 2 weeks in, and we've actually gotten some views, so thank you very much. I'm very appreciative of that. We're gonna keep cranking it out. Since My Hero is on a 2-week break as of this chapter, that's going to give us 2 weeks to probably do some subs. And by subs, I mean we're going to make substitutions. I think Build King will probably become a regular series. We'll see.
Yeah.
And I think since we're going to have a 2-week break with My Hero, we'll try and get this month's Dragon Ball Super in there. And maybe we try some World Trigger, we try some Boruto, which, speaking of Boruto, I just want to end on this note. I found out some interesting information today, which we can talk about maybe for another episode. Kishimoto, I believe is the name
Kakashi
of
Kishimoto.
the author.
Well, Kishimoto.
Bro, he's like taking over Boruto apparently.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So maybe we do another one on that. We'll see, but more content to come. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time in the console room.
All right, take it easy.